Well, good morning, everyone. This is an unusual time for our presidential lecture series, and we have unusual guests, two of them, in fact. So welcome. And we are delighted and excited to welcome two presidential lecture series this semester with senior senator from the great state of Indiana who championed the bipartisan CHIPS and Science Act, along with many other brilliant leadership in U.S. Congress, Senator Todd Young, and also the director of the National Science Foundation, who has been in that position for 4+ years and tirelessly, with great vision and energy and charisma, has been leading our country's fundamental and applied science. Dr. Punch, please join me to give them a warm Boilermaker welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
Well, we just came over from this ribbon-cutting event at the Berg Nanotechnology Center's Don Cyphers Fabrication Clean Room Facility, which has been a proud representation of Purdue's commitment for the past 20 years in nanotechnology, in quantum, in semiconductors, and related fields. And last year, the Board of Trustees approved our request of $100 million of Purdue's internal resources, and now aided by Lilly Endowment, Governor Holcomb's READY program with our neighbors, and many others, into an expanded and upgraded version of what is already the largest, best clean room in American universities. And at that ribbon-cutting event, where both senator and director had the chance to interact with students and faculty, I remember what Director Punch said about BIRCK. See if I'm getting this right in my memory. Punch, that is, it is a brilliant and bold innovation through research and competitiveness through knowledge. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
Turn it over to you.
Wow.
You got that right.
Wow.
All right, I passed my first final exam. We don't do grade inflation at Purdue. Maybe I'll get a B-. So I want to turn it to first to Director Dr. Punch to tell us, what do you think about the progress made in CHIPS plus Science Act? And then to one of the originating and co-sponsoring leaders in the country, Senator Young, your assessment of the progress made and what should happen next, please.
Thank you so much, President Chiang, and it's truly an honor and a delight to be with all of you. I always say, wherever I go, NSF, and I'm sure this a good senator will agree, Congress, basically Congress invests in NSF. NSF in turn invests in these fantastic ideas and talent and people like all of you, in great institutions like the Purdue University. So I always remind people that this is where the real work happens. And wherever I go, I come with the humility to come and say, thank you, and thank you for all the great work that you do. Without your work, NSF will not be what it is. It is because of your work. So you should all congratulate yourself for the amazing work that you do. So that's the first thing I want to start out with. And for your great leadership, President Chiang, and how you're really tirelessly advancing this vision of what I'm going to talk about, the CHIPS and Science, to answer your question, of not only advancing fundamental discovery, but also what does a discovery means? What is it for? And that connection being expressed in its fullest form in an institution like Purdue, and that you are really pushing it hard to make sure that that connection every day in everything is seen clearly. So thank you, first of all. And then when you talk about saying thanks and gratitude, this is an amazing senator. And I say that not because he's a senator of Indiana and I'm in Indiana. I say that wherever I go, you should know that. He's a phenomenal visionary leader. A leader who understands the importance of science, technology, innovation, and more for how that can guarantee prosperity, economic and national security, and working tirelessly. He was the co-architect with Senator Schumer of the Endless Frontier Act, which is what ultimately translated to USICA and then to the CHIPS and Science Act. So I'm telling you, all of us, we owe a huge debt of gratitude for your championship, for your leadership, for your constant, tireless effort. I can tell you, NSF is most grateful to you. Most grateful to you.
Thank you.
And now let me go to chips and science to answer the question. This is what professors do. When you ask them a question, they just sidetrack and do other things. And hope the time will pass. They don't have to really answer the question. Can you not relate to that? Yeah.
All right, time already passed. You don't have to answer it. No.
So, no, but I'll tell you, this has been a landmark. That's how it's described, right? It's a landmark legislation because we all know, I often remind people, the amount of ideas and talent that is there all across our nation, rural, urban areas, across the broad socioeconomic demographic, across the rich diversity of our nation, far exceeds the investment that we are able to make to unleash the amazing ideas, discoveries, applied research potential, innovative outcomes like entrepreneurial ventures, and scaling industry, building the new industries of the future. It far exceeds, all of this far exceeds where we are. So what the Landmark Chips and Science Act has really done is to see how we can supercharge our innovation ecosystem, supercharge our discovery ecosystem, supercharge our applied research ecosystem. And that's what is great about the Chips and Science Act and its conceptualization. Yes, it is about chips that where we are trying to make sure that we capture and recapture and seize the global leadership position. No question about that. But it also is a moniker, if you may. What is happening with semiconductors is that we will not let that happen. We will not let that happen on AI, on quantum, on advanced wireless, next generation systems, biotechnology, you name it. That we are not going to be in a position where we're going to have to go back and seize anything. We will be in the vanguard of all of this innovation so far ahead in terms of competitiveness. And that's what the Chips and Science Act guarantees and talks about. And hopefully the investments at that scale that we are talking about is going to follow soon. Already CHIPS has been invested in. And a lot of great things are happening, including in Purdue, in terms of what the investment is doing in the state of India and all across the nation. I am truly excited. I know I don't express it through my tonality or energy much, but I can tell you, I am truly excited. Take it from me. This is a great vision, a great investment, great future that our nation will have because of that. And I can talk about the details later, but I will stop here. President Chiang.
Yeah, I just assure all of you it's not because of Purdue coffee in the morning. Yeah. Dr. Punch is energetic and charismatic all the way through. Senator, what do you think about the progress made and what must happen next?
Thank you, Mung. Thank you for hosting this event. Thank you for hosting the evangelist of science and technology through the National Science Foundation and more broadly of our national innovation ecosystem in this country. I'm incredibly appreciative of your leadership and know you're excited. I know you're excited about Purdue University, as I am. Seemingly every week, new good news comes out of this university, and it wouldn't happen but for the amazing scholars and professors and the great leadership of Professor Chiang and those who preceded him. But I'm most motivated by interacting with these students. Every time I come to this campus, I'm just impressed by the seriousness of scholarship and by the idealism of your students. So I just want to encourage any of those who are in the audience considering entering the fields of semiconductors or other emerging technologies, as I know so many are around the campus, your service, and it will be service either in the private sector, government, or nonprofit realms, it's going to be critical to our economic security and to our national security moving forward. Chips and Science Act, it is successful. It's already been successful in its implementation. It's not to suggest there haven't been some friction points here and there, but measured, for starters, by the amount of private capital that has been unlocked merely by passing the Chips and Science Act. Not a whole lot of the money has even flowed yet, and we've seen over $200 billion of private sector commitments in rebuilding, onshoring, reshoring our semiconductor ecosystem in this country. So that's metric number one. Metric number two is the number of graduates in discrete disciplines that will be essential to building and sustaining the next generation semiconductor workforce. Of course, Purdue University was well ahead of the game, and that wasn't by happenstance. There were a number of scholars here and leaders at this university going back a number of years who recognized that the seed corn had to be planted so that later it could be harvested if this moment came. The moment is here. Purdue is ready, and Purdue is frankly leading the way with respect to producing the workforce necessary to research, to develop, to commercialize chips, whether they're legacy chips or the frontier, leading edge chips. I would emphasize right now we're rightly, appropriately excited about the CHIPS component of the CHIPS and Science Act. But there is a whole other piece of it, and that's the science piece, and that's investment in research in all manner of discrete disciplines, from emerging biotech to hypersonics to quantum computing to robotics and beyond. And to the extent Congress sees fit, as I hope we will in coming years, to make these investments, which were already authorized, again, through the CHIPS and Science Act, we will measure the success of those investments through some of the means that I just mentioned in the semiconductor realm, but also by the number of patents we see produced in our universities and associated entities that tend to locate around our universities. So economic development for states, for local communities, for nations in the modern era is measured not so much, you don't get lots of fabs, $4 billion fabs, although we are hoping for more here in the state of Indiana and doing our part to compete in those sorts of competitions. But economic development is more about getting people to start businesses and grow businesses, particularly in these areas of emerging tech. That's how you add value to an economy, and by extension, that's how we will defend our values and improve our material circumstances.
Well, thank you. There's a reason why Purdue University, our faculty and staff and faculty working so hard, firing all cylinders, including education, the nation's largest semiconductor degrees program and consortium nationally with 20 plus other universities. In research, one of the winners of the first CHIPS and Science R&D part out of the DoD ME Commons hubs, in like-minded partnership with many countries, and in, of course, welcoming SK Hynix to build what will become the largest of its kind technological park at Purdue, the $4 billion to start with of the AI memory chips advanced packaging. There's a reason, and that's because Purdue, as a public university in America and a land-grant institution serving the state of Indiana, we believe that you can co-generate jobs, workforce, and innovation together. Without jobs, people won't stay, brain gain, to be unemployed. But without workforce, jobs won't come or be created. And without innovation as the foundation, you cannot co-generate workforce and jobs together by rewriting the economic equation there. And I understand recently, under your leadership, Punch, the National Science Foundation created the brand new program of regional innovation engines. And Purdue and our partners, among some of the early round winners and recipients of the resources. Maybe you could share with us your vision on this new program, and then back to Senator Young on how you view the relationship between NSF's mission and the mission of creating jobs and prosperity.
Thank you so much again for asking the question. So when I came to NSF, like Indiana, I came from a small state, Arizona. And I had seen firsthand through my journeys in Arizona that talent and ideas are democratized and they're everywhere. If you give them the chance to exercise that talent, it expresses itself in unbelievable forms. That's the first thing I had seen firsthand. The second thing that I had seen firsthand is great institutions like Purdue and Arizona State and other institutions all across our country partnering with other state institutions. In this case, we met with IU leadership. We'll go and meet with Notre Dame later. Partnering with other institutions in the state, community colleges, technical institutes, K-12 systems, these ecosystems of education. If you bring that together, you can create amazing innovation engines everywhere. And that these innovation engines have to be in place-based ideas, to get the maximal success. I was just talking to Karen about the fact, where else will you find a live-in laboratory for agriculture than the state of Indiana, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and others, right? We have these live-in laboratories of different types everywhere across our nation, that we will take advantage of those innovative, in-place innovation possibilities and build unbelievable excellence in terms of workforce, in terms of discovery ideas, in terms of translation ideas, in terms of entrepreneurial ventures, in terms of inviting industry from everywhere and homegrown industry scaling. This is the right recipe for us all across the nation. When I was a graduate student, the particular entity that I looked up to and I admired was the Bell Labs. You know what Bell Labs did really well? Not only it came up with this amazing Shockley transistor and all those innovations in fiber optics and so on, but the thing that I ascribe to Bell Labs is the unbelievable innovators that Bell Lab made possible. Those innovators today, you'll find there are tire tracks of them, that you will go and talk to a leading industry person, and they will say, well, I spent some time in Bell Labs as a graduate student, or I worked there. That they found that environment as a crucible of how they expressed their innovative mindsets and carried that on not only inside Bell Labs, but all across the nation, all through their life. How do you create that Bell Lab-like structures? Not by just a private sector AT&T creating that, but through public-private sector partnerships. And I was convinced that if we do that all across our nation, we can out-compete, out-innovate any nation on earth. But it's not only about competition. It's the right thing to do. It's also the smart thing to do, because you guarantee jobs, workforce, opportunities for everyone. Okay? Opportunities everywhere for everyone. Innovation everywhere for everyone. And it can be anywhere. So I'd come to NSF with this complete, first-hand knowledge of that. And then the timing was so perfect. They say it's serendipity. Here, here Senator Schumer and Senator Young were co-sponsoring the Endless Frontier Act, and I look at it and it's like a playbook. It's like a playbook for what we are talking about here, right? A perfect playbook. So I said, we have to now take full advantage of this moment. And so we created a new directorate called the Technology Innovation Partnership, or the TIP Directorate. And I said it's got to be launched within a year, no delays accepted. And then all the programs have to launch on that. Many programs are launched. In fact, the Accelerating Research Translation Program, thanks to Purdue, you're a mentor for University of Oklahoma. That's the kind of vibrancy. And the exemplar program of the TIP Directorate, by the way, I just want to remind you, the TIP Directorate is the first new directorate in NSF in 31 years. And it is not a directorate and another directorate where people will say, oh, that's distracting from the investments in basic research. Not at all. Not at all. It's a cross-cutting directorate, leveraging what's happening in the directorates, but even more importantly, energizing what is happening in the directorates of social, behavioral, economic sciences, biosciences, geosciences, mathematical, physical sciences, engineering, computer information science engineering, and so on, education directorate, and so on. It's a highly symbiotic relationship in partnership with industry, economic development ecosystems. I am so proud. I'm so proud of the work that the nation has done. We have close to 60 of the Type 1 regional innovation engines. They are all, I won't have time to talk about them, unfortunately. I get excited by talking about them. But I encourage you, it's all in the public domain. Look at each one of the RIE Type 1s. You will be amazed. Spans all parts of our nation, including territories. Okay? And then the Type 2s, which are the more mature ones, 10 of them that we launched. Unbelievable. Whether it is semiconductors, whether it is addressing sustainability or climate or regenerative kidneys, artificial kidneys, regenerative medicine, textiles. It's just unbelievable to watch how this latent innovation potential is now supercharged. And then I have to thank our partners. Secretary Raimondo was here, right? So she and I are very close partners because of the fact that Department of Commerce regional technology hubs and regional innovation engines should work like this, not like that, like this. And in fact, co-created even regional technology hubs so that these innovation engine ideas can be quickly taken up. We are working with venture capitalists. We are working with industry. We are working with economic development ecosystem. We are working with governance offices. So it is all of the above it takes to build these excellence. And that then fuels more discovery research in quantum, in AI, in biotech, in advanced manufacturing, in, of course, next-gen communication technologies and so on. So truly an integrative, exciting moment for our nation, and the CHIPS and Science Act, again, is going to unleash that prosperity everywhere.
Punch, I want to come back to this basic science versus applied science conversation. But first, Senator, when you go around the state talking to the voters, if somebody says, well, how is the connection between science and my jobs and my life? How would you go through that exercise with them?
I would probably begin with a historical example. I would say because in the wake of the Second World War, we invested in space in order to outcompete, out-innovate, and outgrow the Russian bear. Because of that investment, we were able to spin off an aerospace industry that produces $1 trillion worth of value on an annual basis to our economy. It is that sort of seed corn that we have consistently made in discrete areas of our economy, in discrete disciplines, through our DOE labs, through our research universities, that have been, they have either inspired or they have directly led to commercial products that create jobs, that improve human welfare, that enhance our national security in the process. So we're trying to replicate that. We're trying to learn from our economic history here, as opposed to coming up with a new model for economic growth. We're really adopting the one that we invested in the wake of the Second World War. This is entirely consistent with, in fact, it's exactly what you have done with the TIP Directorate. The TIP Directorate is a concerted effort to ensure that we're investing in areas that are not just curiosity-driven, but are also more applied, areas of physical sciences in particular, that have tapered off over the years. The benefit to cost ratio of university research is off the chart. And good business people, good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, would seek to invest in things that help grow the economy, bring more revenue into the federal government, lead to more innovation and improve lives and the number of jobs we have. I think we have to be very careful. I say this as a fiscal conservative, as a card-carrying member of the Republican Party. We have to be very careful about not making certain investments in infrastructure, in research, in workforce development in the name of austerity. So you can actually overshoot with respect to some of our current fiscal concerns. But I think most of the questions that would come from my constituents, to your point, Mung, would be animated by a concern about the federal fisc and our fiscal responsibility. I would also emphasize, and I'll leave it perhaps to Dr. Ponch to articulate this, but it seems to me that there's really not discrete categories of fundamental research on one hand and applied research on the other. If you're able to apply fundamental research, well, right there, that phrase suggests that there's a bit of seamlessness, but in applying that research, you learn new fundamentals, which inform further fundamental research and application. So you really need to invest in both. I will say that most of our fundamental research is done and should continue to be done by the private sector, but there too, we have subsidies in the name of R&D, deductions and credits. I'm leading that effort in Congress to try and get those reauthorized right now, but I think it's very important to recognize that. And the reason Congress has included that in our tax code is not only that other countries include it in your tax code, so you're competing for innovation and for business in your respective countries, but it's also a recognition that as a society, we underinvest in innovation because only a certain amount of that innovation is internalized to the profit of a company. Some of it becomes a broader public good that helps all of us. And so we need more investment in those areas. But I think it might be helpful if
Sure.
Panch
Sure.
riffed a bit about fundamental versus applied research,
Yes.
because I think it makes
This
a lot
is
of
an
sense.
excellent point, Senator, because I have always believed through my own research that's why when I came to NSF, I said, how do I communicate what NSF does? And what the community, all of us do as faculty members. I still carry the faculty DNA, folks. Okay? So how do we operate? Okay? We operate in this, what I call the DNA of NSF operational mode. The one strand of the DNA is curiosity-driven, discovery-based explorations. And NSF is known for that, right? 262 Nobel laureates invested early in their career, including the 2 Nobel laureates in chemistry right here in Purdue University. Okay? 262 Nobel laureates, but who's counting? In physics, in chemistry, in biology, medicine, in economics. Okay? No agency on planet Earth has this kind of a distinction of unleashing that kind of curiosity-driven work expressed in this forum. That's just one example. But we all know, whether it is Nobel Prize or not, those fundamental discoveries that you're all working on every day is so vital, So that's the one strand. But that strand is not by itself. That strand interweaves with the other strand of the DNA, which is the use-inspired, solutions-focused translations or innovations. That these are not like a pipeline, as the good senator said. This is not like you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and then you do this. These are highly symbiotic. Let me give you an example. In 1970s, there were theories and postulations about gravitational waves, let us say, or even before. Okay? Now that led to a concerted effort in constructing instrumentation in order for it to be able to detect the gravitational waves. So this discovery, desire to discover, explore, made sure that we built the appropriate equipment to be able to do that. And that equipment does not exist, not just piecing something like Radio Shack. You actually come up with unbelievable innovative things to make that possible. That then makes possible the detection of gravitational waves, and through this you got quantum sensing. These things go back and forth, folks. You can take the most basic black hole discovery. You will find the thread of the journey of black hole discovery. There is this back and forth between exploration to translation to innovation to exploration to translation to innovation and exploration. That's the journey of NSF. And that's why I say these are so interwoven and interlinked. And we cannot start to separate them like that. But granted, we want to make sure that in this process that we are hyper-investing, mark my word, hyper-investing in fundamental curiosity-driven research. That's what has made our nation an exemplar, has made our nation outcompete, had our nation lead in the industries of today. I will tell you, NSF invested in AI as the largest investor in computing research, non-defense. 80% of that was done by NSF. Over the last 5 to 6 decades, my own research is machine learning, right? Last 5 to 6 decades, NSF invested in AI through AI winters, folks. When other people walked away, we continued investing. That's what NSF does. Today we are celebrating AI, and we should. And there are a lot more things to be done. Yes, we should. And NSF is investing in that too with 25 AI institutes, $880 million of investment. We should invest even more. NSF invested in quantum 33 decades ago or even before. And quantum of today that we celebrate is because of that curiosity driven. And I keep reminding people what NSF is investing today is not only those to expand, scale, contextualize, solve problems like responsible, ethical AI, and so on, which is important to preserve privacy. But let me tell you, what NSF is investing in today doesn't even have labels for those technologies. That is going to emerge from in next decade or 2 decades or 3 decades from now. And we will then say, oh, that's a great technology. But guess what? That happened because of NSF investments now, persistent investments now. That's why, as an NSF director, I fight every day. Because we cannot lag behind.
I just wish you'd have more conviction behind your belief.
Well, Punch, you know what? Let me echo what you said and do some commercial for NSF on your behalf as well, if I may, but also on behalf of this great institution. You know, Purdue, for one, had actually 3, at least, Boilermakers who have been your predecessors, either Purdue faculty or alum who have been directors of the National Science Foundation over the past few decades. And the Purdue faculty have won multiple large-scale NSF projects, including an STC, a Science Technology Center in Information Theory Machine Learning in the earlier days, including participating in one of the AI institutes, including the very first ERC Engineering Research Center.
Yes.
That
3
president,
AI institutes.
and then right now we have 3 ERCs. We lead one and we co-lead 2 others. Simultaneously, these happen on the average rate of 2 per year for the whole country. Right?
Mung, I'll tell you, I was telling the senator as I was driving in, I feel not qualified yet. Because it seems like my predecessors, many of them have Purdue DNA. My immediate predecessor was the president of Purdue University. Other director, R-Ind, Purdue University. And then I came to know that, Rita Colwell, our director Colwell, had a degree from Purdue. So the good senator told me, we are going to give you a certificate called, you explode the campus certificate. So you can claim that you too have some Purdue credentials.
I look forward to signing that certificate for you, Punch, over lunch. And we continue to work, for example, with this amazing NanoHub, which is National Science Foundation supported over 20 years. Started with Mark Lundstrom and other colleagues, and today we're trying to turn that into a potential CHIPS hub with the largest scientific exploration and collaboration platform, turning into open source semiconductor-related activities. And just also want to echo the senator's message about fiscal responsibility here. You know, when we invest in our student lives, in our dorms, in our academic research facilities, like this morning's ribbon cut, we still maintain tuition freeze for affordability part of the equation, but also we maintain surplus on the annual operating budget. In fact, last year was more than 5%. So we make sure that we as an institution are really good stewards of the public resources and all the philanthropic gifts. By the way, yesterday was Purdue Annual Day of Giving. A record number of gifts were made yesterday over 24 hours. We thank all of them and want to make sure we invest with a sense of responsibility to all of them. Now, I want to come back to this.
On behalf of all the parents of Indiana, I want to thank you and really the entire Purdue team for continuing to sustain that as long as possible. It's really impressive.
Mitch started it as a one-year experiment. See, if we freeze tuition for 1 year, see what would happen. And then people say, how could that work? Now we've announced the 13 years in a row. Well, the answer is partially quite simple. The pie of annual operating budget, undergraduate tuition and fees, only 38%. So instead of abusing the demand inelasticity of that part of the pie and say, we're going to raise 5% every year for 50 years, what can you do as a parent? You're going to have to pay up anyway,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, we say, why don't we work harder on the 62% part of the pie and maybe grow that part?
Yes,
We're growing. We're growing, we're investing, we're raising salary, but also holding tuition frozen. Now, I'm going to get carried away with all the commercials here for Purdue, but let me come back to this point. That is
no, but you just made the point. That's where you should look. If you're not going to engage in austerity, you need to figure out how to grow.
Yes.
Grow in such a manner as to afford your consumption patterns, and so you were doing that. We're starting a couple of generations behind at the federal level, but nonetheless, we should draw inspiration from the example of investing in growth opportunities. It's not just an exercise that private businesses should be involved in. Governments and not for-profit entities like universities should do the same. So thank you for Purdue.
Well, we want to help grow the NSF pie as well,
yes.
Right? And it's not just CHIPS and neighboring disciplines, but also many others that you mentioned. So I want to ask both of you this question around investment in AI. Now, one thing we are witnessing here in the Midwest in a state like Indiana, where we're leading the country in digital agriculture, in pharmaceutical manufacturing, in transportation and logistics. This hard tech corridor between Indianapolis campus was starting July 1 this year through Lebanon 2, West Lafayette Discovery Park District. And we believe that there is much yet to be discovered at the interface between the bytes and atoms, the bytes of AI, but also the atoms of things that you can touch, the hard stuff, what we make, what we grow, what we move. We call it the Physical AI Institute. And love to hear both of your thoughts on what will be the next wave of AI beyond ChatGPT.
I'll let the good senator go first, yeah.
Well, Karen Plout did a good job in reading me into the Physical AI initiative on the way over. And I'm so excited. I mean, this seems like a perfect fit for the state of Indiana. We move things. We are a logistics state. We make things, manufacturing state. We grow things. And so just our disciplines and our commercial expertise here in this state lends itself, to say nothing of the workforce, to applying AI to these fields. And I regard it as a benefit that so many of the physical manifestations of AI, from robotics to agriculture and other applications, lag. They lag the other sort of algorithmic advancements in artificial intelligence, the advancements that are occurring with respect to data, collation, development of synthetic data, and our CHIPS advancements. We need to figure this out. We need to figure out new ways of applying these algorithms to the physical space. And when we do that, we'll start to see, I think, amazing productivity improvements in our economy as well. So Purdue can lead the way. At the federal level, I'll just speak to that. In the Senate, I have worked with 3 other senators, Schumer, Heinrich, and Mike Round, so a bipartisan 2-and-2 group, over the last year to learn everything I can about artificial intelligence, including some of the fundamental unanswered questions about AI related to safety, workforce impact, on and on. And based on a number of information sessions where we've invited the world's best minds, so-called AI Insight Forums. We had 10 of them, and we'd invite 20 to 25 people, and you'd recognize their names. It was Elon Musk, it was Zuckerberg, it was Gates, it was Eric Schmidt, on, and then a lot of researchers and national security types. We have compared notes, we have assembled our lessons learned, and we've developed a roadmap, so to speak, for the Senate, and I hope more broadly for Congress, to start legislating as it relates to AI. For starters, and I've already dropped 2 bills before we are releasing this roadmap in coming days, I've dropped 2 pieces of legislation. One is with Martin Heinrich called the Create AI Act. This is to scale up an initiative at the National Science Foundation that Pancha's led on, called the National AI Research Resource. And we are trying to democratize access to compute. Compute, we know, is scarcer than the demand, but the demand for high-end compute among researchers at places like Purdue University and at businesses that aren't Google or Meta or some of the majors is really significant. We think we should spread the wealth somewhat in terms of this fundamental research. So that's the Create AI Act. The second piece of legislation, I think some of you perhaps heard me, but we would establish an AI Safety Institute within the National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST. That AI Safety Institute, working with the private sector, will come up with a series of voluntary regulatory standards so that the industry, researchers, and consumers alike can measure AI on a number of different fronts, for consumer protection, for a number of different things, and allow us to speak in a common language and to assess the success of these. We're beginning with this. We'll need to do other things in Congress as well to enable AI advancement to move forward in this country so we remain the best in the world. We'll need to invest more in research. We've already authorized that research through the CHIPS and Science Act, so it's a matter of appropriating it. We are going to need to become a lot more sophisticated at the federal level of government in terms of our workforce and ensuring that we are AI proficient so that we can acquire systems, so that we can regulate areas of our economy that have adopted AI and adjust regulations to adapt to an AI-enabled economy. I don't foresee a massive legislating push being necessary in terms of other areas of AI regulation. I think most of our existing statutes can be adapted to deal with this AI economy. So that's Congress's standpoint. But I know at NSF, there is a lot of good work occurring on this front.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, Senator, again, I want to take a moment to appreciate the great work that you are doing in partnership with Senator Rounds, Senator Heinrich, Senator Schumer, and all the senators who are participating. And I was in one of the panels that the senator referenced, and you saw the participation was amazing. And on the House side, again, we have, again, leadership in terms of wanting to make sure that this is a topic that is very important for the moment.
There are no cameras in the room, which
Yes.
may have contributed to participation being amazing.
Yes.
And senators, not showboating,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was,
No, it was an excellent participation, and I really enjoyed the sessions myself. So at NSF, as I said earlier, we've been investing on this quite a bit, and on an annual basis, the NSF investments exceeds $820 million just in the last year in AI. I mean, this is for infrastructure, it's for ideas, it's for big conceptualizations like this, like the AI institutes that we talked about. I mean, to Mung's point earlier, at NSF also we are culturalizing ourselves to the point that this good senator made, is that we are leveraging NSF investments with private sector investments to scale rapidly also. And the AI Institutes is an excellent example. We have launched 25 AI institutes, each $20 million in scale. I encourage you to go and look at these 25 institutes. You will see it spans the nation, 46 states, and with amazing partnerships in each one of them. But NSF invested $300 million, $200 million came from our partners. 5 of the AI institutes, believe it or not, to the point that you made, Mung, about the grow focus. 5 of them are AI institutes for agriculture. There are AI institutes in partnership with the Department of Transportation, Department of Homeland Security, NIH, NASA, Department of Energy, Commerce. The NIST one was focused on, social ethical implications, legal, ways of moving forward with AI into the future, responsible development of AI. So I'm very excited by the fact that these are the ways in which you advance ideas to translation to entrepreneurial ventures. The RIE program that we talked about, almost all of them have some form of AI thread. You would expect that because AI is becoming part of everything that we do. So I think I see a very bright future because of the concerted effort in Congress and leadership of the Biden-Harris administration with the executive order that the president put forth. And one of the things of the executive order was this NAIR that he wanted piloted, right, in 90 days. And I'm happy to say $30 million that NSF put, 25, in 90 days, we had 25 non-governmental partners, 30 million from NVIDIA, 20 million from Microsoft, 10 million from Amazon. Who's who in AI? Philanthropy, Anthropic, OpenAI, everybody part of that. 12 federal agencies. This was required for us to bring together all of this. And this is just a pilot, and I'm already seeing the unleashing of that and making possible things for democratization of AI, as the senator said that they would like to see AI democratization happening everywhere, and talent building everywhere, workforce building everywhere. And we are anxious to look at the Create AI Act moving forward so that we can scale this rapidly in partnership with industry. So everything at NSF that we do, we are trying to look at the lens of what other partners can we bring to the table? Other federal agencies, industry, philanthropy, foundations, economic development organizations. I leave this last thought. The RIE program that we talked about, these type 2s, we put in $150 million for 2 years. We got $350 million on top of that cities and economic development organizations, industry, and others matched. It's a $500 million program. We invested only $150 million. The other $350 million came from our partners. Because I believe that that's the way we are going to have a sustainable, growing innovation ecosystems into the future. So I'm very excited by the great work that is being done in bipartisan way in Congress and the great leadership that Senator Young and others are taking on. And I think this is a moment that we can be rest assured that it is an all-in effort, all-of-nation effort that is coming together in understanding the importance of this moment. So NSF will do its part and will make sure that we are a part of solutions rather than problems.
Well, I also want to ask about the bipartisan effort on biotech that Senator Young is spearheading.
Yes.
However, knowing that we're bounded by 1 hour here, I want to leave some time for the students to ask the questions they wanted. Please.
Thank you.
Hello. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Director Plunge, Senator Young, and President John to being here and speaking with us. My name is Jay Lee. I'm a senior in multidisciplinary engineering. So on behalf of Purdue student, we have a few selected questions for you. First question goes to domestic STEM talent at master's and PhD level has long been a challenge for our country. What can NSF and the U.S. Congress do to help tackle this important issue of talent pipeline?
If I can take that.
Oh, absolutely.
So basically, as you know, I said in earlier comments that I made, if there is one word to describe NSF, it's people. People who are the innovators, people who are the idea generators, people who are the people that become leaders in industry and so on and so on and so forth. Whether it's an undergraduate research student or a community college student or even a K-12 student, and then of course master's and PhD students, all of them are invested in by NSF in one form or the other. Okay? So let's focus on the specific question of master's and PhD students that you talk about. You know, every grant of NSF, right? Every grant of NSF, that investment that is made, typically supports graduates. Almost all of them supports graduate students. But we also have something called a graduate research fellowship program, which is, I met a graduate research fellow in the poster session that we had earlier. Amazing to watch these people do unbelievable things. But let me be honest and tell you, there are at least this year, we had, I think, 12 to 14,000 applicants for the graduate research fellowship program. We were able to fund only 2,000 of them. To me, this is the greatest national security challenge that we face. I will say it no other way. Because these are students who are so top of the top of the top, and we are not able to support them. It's a missed opportunity. I worry every day that the people that we don't invest in, our competitors will invest in. And that's not acceptable for the future of our country. And so we need to work harder. You have my word. I work every day in making sure that we will expand these fellowships and scholarships, and with the kind support of our good senator who has been really a huge champion for science, talent, ideas, and innovation. I know he already talked about this, that with the investments that we're going to get, we are going to scale. We are going to scale GRFPs, we're going to scale through grants the number of graduate students that are going to be supported.
Thank you.
Could
Yes, please, Senator.
I will keep this very tight in the hope that we can receive a couple more questions. But a few additional thoughts, and I agree with everything you said, Panch, and sign me up to help on those fronts. However, I think it's essential that we invest in some folks who probably aren't in this room, folks who aspire to get a certificate and maybe something less than an associate's degree, but want to build on the success of their K through 12 education and plug into either an emerging tech field or another field. So that's something we have supported but need to support perhaps more generously at the federal level. We need to support, in what I anticipate to become an increasingly dynamic economy, those who find themselves disrupted out of a job for a period of time and want to upskill. And I have some legislation through the tax code in which we could accomplish that. People could acquire those skills. And then we really need to take another periodic look, as we have in recent decades, at our pre-K through 14 sort of education system, comparing it to international competitors. And we continue to have a whole lot of work to do on that front. I'm troubled not only by the average scores when we compare them across various disciplines. I'm also troubled by the disparity in educational opportunity and scores, and I use the term education broadly, across school districts. And so that's a debate we need to be having at state levels as well.
Thank you. Please.
I want to thank all of you again for all your contribution. Hearing all the conversations about like hyper investing in like new technology is like, it's really, I'm very grateful to be in this generation. Okay, so sorry, come on with the second question. Both of you have very interesting careers. What's your advice for students who are just starting to contemplate our careers?
He has a much more stellar career than I am.
No. I would say don't stress it too much. Think about it, but if you get yourself involved in a particular career track, most of you who are receptive to this message right now, presumably the person who asked it is fairly young. You have a lot of time to change careers. I have been a sailor and then a Marine. I was a management consultant. I was a small town attorney. And then I had to find an exit strategy from the practice of law, so I ran for Congress, right? So, and I'm not done yet. I don't know what will come next in my career, but I would just really emphasize that. And you can learn a lot about different fields just by visiting with people who are in those fields. I think people underestimate the power of those just informational interviews. Grab a cup of coffee with someone, ask a scientist or a business person to lunch, and people are happy to oblige.
Fantastic answer. I mean, I always say that be the best that you can be. I tell everybody that. If you're a carpenter, be the best that you can be. If you're a scientist, be the best that you can be. I have found that the people who are the best in what they do, they always excel. And the most important thing I find is when you do that, you're happy also. Okay? So I think it's a win-win situation. Okay? So to the good senator advice, I will tell you this. He said it perfectly. Oftentimes we are always interested in engaging with people who think like us, who act like us, who are in the same discipline, who care about the same things. It's always a good idea to get out of your cocoon and talk to various people. I have found inspiring conversations and inspirations from so many people for which you need to keep your eyes open, ears open. I've had the most stimulating conversation with Uber drivers. As just one example. Okay? I'm telling you, their life story, it just inspires me. So inspiration is everywhere. I do not know whether we have the time. I want to share one small inspirational story,
Please.
if I may. This will tell you how inspiration is everywhere. I went one time to LA Fitness a few years ago in Arizona. I parked my car. I tried to find the closest parking spot when I'm going to the gym. We all do that, don't we?
I don't go to the gym altogether.
So I go into the gym. As I'm entering the gym,
It's funny.
I catch with the corner of my eye a homeless young gentleman outside the gym. I walk into the gym, and I realized I forgot to take my water bottle with me. And so I'm asking the front desk person, do you have any extra bottles that I can borrow, that I can fill up water for my exercise? The person said, sir, we don't carry extra bottles like that. There's a vending machine out there. They have water bottles there in the vending machine. And I went to the vending machine promptly. $3.49 was the price of the water bottle. I walked away from it. And then I came back. And then as I came back to the front desk, I saw this gentleman who was outside had come in, and he was having a conversation with the lady in the front desk. And he had heard my conversation with her about the water bottle. So he asked me, sir, do you need a water bottle? I said, yes, that's what I want. He had just 2 water bottles in his bag. I choke up whenever I talk about this. It's very hard for me to contain myself. He had 2 water bottles, one he was using, one that was extra. He took his water bottle out and gave it to me. And he said, sir, you can take this water bottle. I was so inspired by that moment. Here is a person who has nothing, and he's willing to dispense with what he has nothing to somebody who has a lot more than him. Folks, I'm telling you, Inspiration is everywhere. It's just that we have to keep our eyes open. What am I going to say as a final thing? I'm so grateful for the public service that our good senator is doing. Please serve. Our nation needs all of your service. I said when people asked me about taking this job, I said instead of sitting outside and complaining about NSF and what it could do, come in the fray. Be part of the change. Be part of the change. Every one of us has an opportunity to serve. These days I give a lot of commencement addresses. I'm going to do 3 of them in the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, at Northeastern, at University of Maryland, and then University of Ottawa. I always tell my students at the end, the students that they graduate, I tell them, if each one of you take 25 students in your lifetime, students that don't typically, youngsters, not students, youngsters, who don't have the ability, okay, to be inspired by either the family or friends or whatever it is, or even if they are, you're augmenting it. If each of you took 25 people and inspired them to do something greater than what they would have done by themselves, that would be an enormous service to our country.
Thank you, Punch. As a public land-grant institution, Purdue is so proud to be the home where the uplifting power of public education and affordable excellence at scale can be provided to such a large number of Hoosiers and Americans and other students. The way we think of education is exactly what you said. It is going to be providing just brand new opportunities in this land of opportunities. And public service is a calling.
Yes.
And we thank both of you for your service. Now, however, I do have to ask the last question, which I always ask with all the presidential lecturers, and that is, what was the most stressful moment or evening in your career? I'll tell you mine, and that was the first game of this year's March Madness. I couldn't sleep. If you follow college basketball in America, Purdue, Boilermaker men's basketball, we are among the very, very best. But sometimes it doesn't work out in a particular game. So this year's first round in Indianapolis, I was like, please, we're going to win this one. And well, it turns out we won 5 games back-to-back, first time in our program history, all the way to national championship game. By the way, in Arizona, the Final Four, I tell you, not only I think we are the best team, but also we are by far the university there in the Final Four with the largest number of NSF fundamental research. But that was my most stressful moment, was that Friday night. So yours.
Yes.
That was stressful. I was stressful for you in particular. I know we were in
so
touch.
You're most stressful.
Yeah.
No,
It may have made the top 10, but no, my most stressful moment was a period of time. It lasted for several months. I had left the Marine Corps. I spent a brief stint in our U.S. Senator's office, and then I decided to move home. I had a Marine Corps background, I had a Navy background, an MBA, a little time in a Senate office, and employers didn't know what to do with my resume, with my background, and I tried to keep my chin up. I worked very long days, 10-hour days, walking the pavement, meeting people, interviewing for jobs, and I just wasn't finding the fit. But getting through that exercise, about halfway through it, I recognized, wait a second, I'm meeting the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. These are the informational interviews I suggested you never undervalue. I am meeting people that if I stay in touch, we could become friends, we could help one another professionally. So I started to regard my circumstances as a real opportunity as opposed to a frustration. And I think that enthusiasm, that outlook helped me as I sat down with individuals, but it certainly has proven true. So a number of my best friends here in the state of Indiana I met over that brief period of time. I see those individuals who I encountered along the way often, and I would just encourage you. It shows you should always sort of keep faith with respect to your circumstances, but there's more to that. There's something more concrete, which is use those opportunities, those gaps in your professional life to meet people can be incredibly enriching, not just very stressful, which it was for a period of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Punch.
Mung, thank you. We all can attest to a number of such moments that we have, and I want to look at it more from a near term. When I came into NSF, of course, I came in COVID time. That in itself is a challenge. But one of the things that really made me stressed and really wanted to solve this, right? And is when I heard about the Antarctic program and the sexual harassment report that came out from several decades of what was happening. I read the report and I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep. I was thinking of my daughter. I was thinking of my wife. I was thinking of all the people that I know that I could sort of see it through the lens of what it would mean if they went through these experiences, what it would mean to me. I just couldn't sleep for several nights. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just stress over it. How can I solve this? How can I address this? How can I take it head on? How can I do something about it? And over the last 18 months, we have done really with a focused energy, thanks to the entire NSF, the National Science Board, and a whole host of other folks who worked with us. We are in a much better place than we were. We are nowhere near done, but I'm telling you, there is no room for that thing anywhere, okay? And that requires a tremendous amount of processing through waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning or 2 a.m. in the morning and not being able to get to sleep and processing it. What can I do better? What can I do better? What can I do better? Many of my colleagues, my head of my Office of Legislative Public Affairs, Amanda Greenwell, is here. She will tell you that we sit and talk about this and see how we can address this problem, how we can address this problem head on, make sure that we do the right things, and make sure that people feel safe. Scientists and people who help scientists do their science cannot be in a place where they feel not safe. It's for anybody and everybody, and I'm saying in this situation specifically. So, sometimes stress is good, my friend, because what it does is it makes you really want to solve the problem. I would not call it a bad stress. It's a stress that made me really focus, bring people, work hard, hire the right people, and I would say that we have a much better place than we are.
Well, thank you for addressing that important issue, and thank you for your persistence, Senator. I just want to assure all of you that American higher education, there's no stress whatsoever. So thank you for your leadership, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Great to have you here.
You did a
Thank you so
fabulous
much.
job. You did a
Thank
fabulous
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, my friend.
You too.